Welcome to the Redemptive Economics Podcast, where we are empowering Christian entrepreneurs to make a redemptive economic impact here in Pittsburgh and beyond. Let's get to work! Hey guys, welcome to the show where we are helping Christians build profitable businesses of eternal significance and thereby having a redemptive economic impact, both here in Pittsburgh and beyond. I am so grateful that you chose to join me today, join us today, and you are not going to be disappointed. This is an incredible interview with an unbelievable young entrepreneur who I think you're just going to glean tremendous value from. But before we jump in, I just want to remind you that we're in the midst of a 12-week or 12-session digital course that I created entitled The Redemptive Enterprise, 15 Biblical Principles to Build a Profitable Business of Eternal Significance. The entire course, the entire 12-session course is only $25, so I've tried to remove any barrier of entry. Also, when you register, you'll be able to join me live every Wednesday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live presentation of the content and then a Q&A or discussion session afterwards. This is your opportunity to ask questions and to figure out how to apply the principles that are being taught to your specific business context. It's not a requirement. You do not have to attend the live sessions. Every week, you'll gain access to the next session, regardless of whether you attend the live session or not. Look, if you are trying to apply biblical principles or integrate your faith into your business, this is the course for you. There is nothing like it out there, which is why I created it, and I would love for you to come along for the journey and join us for the Redemptive Enterprise, 15 Biblical Principles to Build a Profitable Business of Eternal Significance. Also, I want to thank all those who have come alongside to support this ministry. I am so grateful for you. I've actually gotten a couple tips through Strike, and that would be in Bitcoin primarily. Thank you. If you're listening and you tipped me in Bitcoin, first of all, it was not insignificant. I mean, it was like a couple $100. Thank you so much for that support. It means a ton and just helps motivate me to keep going with this mission. All right, gang, let's go ahead and jump into our interview this week with Luke Gilligan. All right, so today, man, I am so excited. We probably have, I think this is probably the youngest entrepreneur that I've had on the show so far, and really excited for you to hear about his perspective and experience. Luke Gilligan is the founder and CEO of ReSense, a pioneering company dedicated to creating dementia-friendly engagement products and programs. Luke combines his passion for improving the quality of life for individuals living with dementia with innovative approaches to reminiscence therapy and cognitive engagement. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that because those are big words for me. His company, ReSense, develops a wide range of products, including dementia-friendly workbooks, nostalgic newspapers, and comprehensive engagement kits, all designed to enrich the lives of those in the later stages of dementia. Luke Gilligan, welcome to the Redemptive Economics Podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is, it's funny. This is, I think we talked a little bit about this when we first got together for coffee, but man, are you in the right region of the country to have a business like this. Allegheny County, I think, still competes for the number 1 or 2 spot of the most retired elderly people, I think. Is that something like that?
I think it's it's either number 1 or number 2. Yeah, you're right. It's just the retired and individuals living in retirement communities. It's kind of crazy. Right smack in the middle of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's us or Dade County, Florida, maybe. Something like that. Or Dade County, Miami. I don't know. Anyway, so Luke, I am super excited to hear from you, brother. And I think folks are going to gain a ton of perspective because you've had this entrepreneurial heart for a long time. Even though you are young, you've been engaged in entrepreneurship for a long time. But before we dive into some of that and in learning more about your business, let's hear a little bit of background on your faith journey. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was blessed to be growing up in a Christian home, raised by two very, I think, the strongest Christians I know.
Hmm.
And I was always encouraged to follow the Lord, but not forced to, I think. So they gave me the opportunity to learn what that looks like and going to church every Sunday. I grew up in like kindergarten to fourth grade at a Christian school. And I was able to really just learn from some of my teachers that one in particular, Mrs. Lawton, changed my life.
Hmm.
And I really remember absolutely like falling in love with the Lord in third grade. And I think that was when I was able
That's
to
awesome.
make that choice and be able to say, okay, I know this is the direction I want to go with my life, and I know that this is the truth. And I really think Mrs. Lawton did help me do that. I think she was an amazing teacher and life mentor now. And so I was able to do that. And then growing up, we switched in between schools. We went to a Latin school at one point and then
Oh,
public
wow.
school. And so my faith was tested a lot,
Hmm.
and I was
Hmm.
able to see, like, I think my parents were, again, very right in the idea to send me to a public school just so
Hmm.
I can see culture and
Okay.
see, hey, this is what different people believe, different people
Hmm.
think, and we want you to know that, hey, this is the way you're walking, and this is the one you want to walk with. And I was able to really grow with that because I started to become involved with crew.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, right.
in our school, which was one of the biggest in the actually in the country. We had around 6,000 kids at our school, and our crew was like 400, 500 people.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, this is high school still?
High school, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so
Because I didn't know crew existed in at the high school level. I knew it was college, but I forget that they have a high school presence.
yeah, I mean that's the only one that I was involved with, and then it started in like freshman year, so I think
Okay.
it might be a new thing that they just started doing, but
Okay.
it was an amazing outreach program, and it was really nice to be able to grow and find other Christians at this huge school.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so that's kind of just like my faith background. We were in the same church my entire life. We
Oh,
never
wow.
changed churches. Got
Whew.
to really become. I will say that my mother is a pillar of that church right now,
Oh,
and
really?
is highly involved in it. But
Okay.
it was really good to be able to grow up and just to grow with friends and
Yeah.
um, from kindergarten on, and we youth group every Wednesday. It was I think that was my faith background. Yeah, it was just a really great growing up and a
That's
great
awesome.
foundation.
Man, shout out to Mrs. Lawton for the impression she made on you in an early age, and then third grade. That is definitely young. But I think more and more. I look back on my own experience, and I think I was like 3 or 4 maybe when I quote unquote said the prayer with my dad, and I'm pretty sure as I look back, it seems more legitimate the older I get. Like, man, something happened. God grabbed a hold of me in some way, and I believe that can happen at a young age, and clearly it happened to you.
Well, even if it like I look back kind of similar, and I can see myself like in sixth grade or in ninth grade, kind of just going like, okay, just rechecking myself. I sometimes and so, but yeah, third grade was really I think it's also that time of life that it's really pivotal, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of when you start to become your own person and take up hobbies and like not just doing what your parents are telling you to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah,
Hmm.
she was an amazing woman,
Hmm.
and she made me. The one thing I loved about her, she had us memorize the Bible via song. So she wrote
Wow.
probably hundreds of songs, and I still remember them to this day.
Wow.
So it was, yeah,
That's
she.
the way to do it, though. When you're young like that, man, the music, using music and singing to memorize things. That's a very
Mhm,
effective way of doing
mhm.
it. Wow. So, and I think you mentioned, I think I heard you say that you experienced some, I don't know, not that you questioned your faith, but maybe there were some issues that came up. Maybe it was kids that were making fun of you. I don't know. Were there things that challenged your faith, I guess, as you were growing up?
Yeah, I would say so between in freshman year of college, or not college, of high school, I was really bullied in school.
Ah, man.
And
Okay.
that's why we switched schools a lot. And I look back on it now. I didn't know
Wow.
in the moment. I was like, oh, we're just switching schools again. I think it was my parents protecting me a little.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, because we went from fourth grade, fifth and sixth grade, I went to public school. Didn't go
Okay.
well. Then switched seventh and eighth grade to a tiny Latin school. Had the best time of my life. And then
Wow.
they decided to send me back to public high school.
Okay.
And so I think really that was like the time that it was just when, I mean, hey, when you're getting bullied, and that was like the biggest problem of my life then,
Hmm.
you really do question, it's like the whole like, why does God let bad things happen?
Absolutely.
And as a kid, that's a big question to have
Yep.
to answer. And I do remember that well, the one thing that helped me was going back and reading the Bible. And I think that
Hmm.
was kind of what got me to
Huh.
uh, like just ensure myself that this is the truth and that there's only one truth. And I
Hmm.
think so reading the Bible was really the way that made me go, wow, I'm a sinner, worthless without a savior. And
Wow.
even if it was like, yeah, God can let bad things happen, but that's an effect of the fall. That's our problem. We created it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a big part of that, like growing up, and the one questioning kind of. And I will say I am like a doubting Thomas. I always
Hmm.
go back and look, and I'm like, I'm also highly analytical of like everything. So it's
Yeah.
like sometimes I'm just like,
Yeah.
and then have to go and read, and I don't know,
Yeah.
like,
Be
and so
reminded. Yeah.
yeah, that hey, God's doing things in my life, and I just need to wait and see. And I think
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's really just like testing of my faith was in
Mm.
school, was that kind of just friends, or people saying, "Hey,
Mm.
why are you believing in God in a public school?" And when all your friends are not believers, it's really hard, especially as like a
Absolutely.
sixth grader to express that. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love what you said there. Oh my gosh. So many people need to be reminded. What so so you doubted and you questioned, and so you went back and read the Bible. What a novel idea. I
you know,
love it. I love it, man. That it's so but it's so simple but so true. So many of us need to be reminded of that. So I'm really grateful you said that, and that I love that that happened, that you did that. Okay, so then how, like, when for you did you realize you had this entrepreneurial kind of bug, if you will? And I know, I don't know if this maybe has played a role in it or not, but you did mention how your parents, I think in your junior and senior year, made you read 40 books and do reports on these books too. I thought that was amazing to hear you describe that. I forget whether that played a role in it or whether you kind of had it in you before that. Yeah, what was it that lit that entrepreneurial fire in you?
that's a very funny question. So I always tell people that I've always had it. I think
Yeah.
I gave my parents a run for their money. So
Hmm.
I'm adopted. They're both very like double masters type people. Like they're smart people,
Oh,
but
yeah,
they aren't
academics.
creative people.
Ah, yes.
And so when I was a kid, I was taking up every hobby in the book, any craft that I could. And then anytime I did a craft, I was like, why can't I sell this and like make some money
That's
off of
great.
it?
Yeah. Sovereign.io is the Bitcoin consulting company for businesses. They provide strategic advisory, tailored education, and seamless onboarding to a Bitcoin standard. Adopting new technology alone can be daunting and filled with unnecessary pitfalls. Working with a trusted sovereign advisor can help you avoid costly mistakes and position you for success from the outset. With over a century of collective Bitcoin experience, they've overcome the challenges so you can leverage their experience. Make sure you click the link in the show notes to get 2 essential Bitcoin guides: Bitcoin Simplified, a clear, concise introduction to Bitcoin, and The Business Case for Bitcoin, the world's first in-depth ebook on Bitcoin's place in corporate finance and strategy. Bitcoin is a solution to the problem that every company on the planet faces: Understanding and adopting this sweeping technology will be the key for all business leaders in 2025. TBD Bookkeeping is who I use for my bookkeeping needs, and I'm thrilled to recommend them to you. As business owners with 3 kids themselves, Ryan and Danielle Hatch understand the value of time and the importance of work-life balance. TBD Bookkeeping can take over the day-to-day bookkeeping of your business so you can focus more on growth, operations, and customer relationships. I can speak from experience. If you're a business owner, you need a bookkeeper, and TBD Bookkeeping is simply the best in the business. Find their contact information in the show notes, and when you mention Redemptive Economics, you'll receive 10% off your first 3 months. Call TBD Bookkeeping today and learn more about the benefits I've experienced: more time, peace of mind, and the ability to plan for the future.
And so I remember it was probably around like fourth and fifth grade, I started knitting, and then I started selling what I was knitting on Etsy.
Yeah.
And then like I became a teenager, started doing more things with it. And so I've always had it. I was always doing some side gig or side hustle and trying to make some money off of the things that I was creating. And then my parents in high school, we did do the whole do hard things, Alex and Brett Harris. I didn't read all of them, but I read most of them. They had 40 books for young men to read, essentially, that are pivotal for life. And I think that was really where it sparked my first like entrepreneurial endeavor, which was a nonprofit called Huggable Happiness. That taught teenage entrepreneurship, because I read a book called Do Hard Things, and it was basically telling you to be like, okay, we're young, but why does that have to stop us from doing anything? And I took that and I ran with it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, we are young, but people my age, and so I was like 15, 16, have ideas, and we have companies that we could start, and we could change the world. And so I wanted to create a platform for them to be able to do that and learn from it, because in Fishers, Indiana, there wasn't very much like teenage entrepreneurship courses. I had to fly to California to take to do like an entrepreneurship camp.
Wow.
And so that was what sparked that venture. And that was my high school kind of. I did that all throughout high school. I had a few other ones in between there, but yeah. So I've always been entrepreneurial in heart.
So, okay, Huggable Happiness was a way to help encourage other teenage entrepreneurs. Is that right? The name just doesn't seem like, it's like, wait, what? Huggable Happiness? Can you explain name, like why the name?
So our first project that we created was we hand sewed these pillows that had pockets in them, and we would stuff them with toys, and we'd give them to children in the children's hospital as a way to replace their backpacks, because we were any good part of entrepreneurship is you find a need and then you meet it. And we were continually getting told, like, we were trying to help these children, and we're like, well, how can we do something that's different than all the food drives or all the different like toy drives? And people were telling us that backpacks were bulky on wheelchairs, and they're sometimes hard to carry around and that type of thing. And so we wanted to create something that they could carry with them on their laps. And so they would take out the toys, put their iPads in, or whatever they wanted to do. And so we created some huggable happiness, and the idea of like the pillow is something that they could hug, and it brings happiness, and that was the start of that name. And the pillows were called Cuddly Cubbies, so I really ran with the alliterations.
Absolutely. That's great.
So that was, and then we ended up with that nonprofit. We ran that project. We ran a few other ones to help the homeless. One was in Guatemala, and then we also did one just locally, because I found out that hidden poverty was one of the worst types of poverty, especially in our area. And so educating the youth, I guess, we would go around schools and talk about what is hidden poverty, and we created food drives and type of stuff with that.
Wow. Very cool. So, and do you know if that program is still going on?
I've heard some. So we gave it to the youth advocacy company. There's a name for it. They are still doing the food drives that we did.
Okay.
We called it Snack Attack, and we would basically all of the elementary schools would in one semester gather snacks, and then we would go into one giant gymnasium and just pack thousands of bags.
Wow.
And so I know they're still doing that. I don't know. The Cuddly Cubbies are not a thing anymore because there's people aren't selling them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ideas are still out there. And I get updates here and there from people.
That's
There's just
amazing.
like, hey, we just want to let you know that we're still doing things that you were a part of. So
Man, that is so cool. What a cool legacy. And then I love your heart, and this will come out more and more as we talk about the business ReSense as well, but just your heart to learn and discover ways to solve problems, you know? And you're right. That is exactly, man, if there's anything that I think is at the core of a good, I would say, redemptive entrepreneur, they are looking to solve problems, right? Okay. So after high school, you went on to Grove City. And I know Grove City, well, I should be, there is actually a Grove City separate from Grove City College. So I got to be specific. You went to Grove City College. And that played a huge role just in helping you understand the redemptive impact of entrepreneurship. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about, because I've talked about Grove City several times on this podcast already, actually related to Bitcoin, funny enough. But it's an amazing school doing amazing things with entrepreneurship and business and their Austrian economics kind of foundation they have there. So tell us about your experience there and how that impacted your entrepreneurial journey.
yeah, so I obviously in high school knew I wanted to be in entrepreneurship somehow, but I realized that I needed to get the book knowledge of like, okay, hey, let me do this right and do it the right way. And so I was looking for colleges, and we were having a really hard time finding colleges that would have the program. And then I remember my mom stumbled across on Grove City College because a couple of our elders in our church met and married there. And
Hmm.
so she was like, "Hey, Luke," I think she wanted me to find a wife, but
Yeah,
she
right,
was
right.
like, "Hey, like we should look into this school." And I was like, "If they have an entrepreneurship program, I'll go to it." Like
Hmm.
like I was done looking at colleges,
Hmm.
and so I looked it up, and the first ad that was there was Grove City Entrepreneurship, and I clicked on it, and
Wow.
what I loved, and so basically we went the next day to Grove City. We drove to one of their basically like new student programs, and just introducing the programs, and I got to meet all of the professors of entrepreneurship. And what just really stood out to me was their drive for redemptive entrepreneurship, and that was the first time I ever heard that word.
Hmm.
And I think that every one of those professors has that at heart, and they're teaching us not just how to be entrepreneurs. And basically you hear of all these like cutthroat companies that are making millions and millions of dollars, but they're exploiting the people that they work for or the processes that they work for.
Yeah.
And so yes, we like every entrepreneur kid that's going to entrepreneurship as a major is like, yeah, I want to make $1 million and learn how to do that. But what they really focused on at Grove was, okay, but how can we make impact? And how can we use our entrepreneurial brains and minds to really create impact in the world? And so I think that was really the biggest impact that Grove had on me was, and I could talk for hours about Grove, the program, and they
Yeah.
specifically have the Center for Entrepreneurship
Hmm.
Innovation that's separate from the program, but it's another just
Hmm.
powerhouse for outputting students that are really looking to make a physical like impact with redemptive entrepreneurship, and they help you. They have accelerators, that type of thing, to start your companies and really run with it. Um, and so that was really it changed my life. And
Yeah.
I will like I would never change that decision to go to Grove. It was a small but mighty school. That's what we say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening.
That's great. Yeah, and we both have a mutual friend, Yvonne English, who's up there in the entrepreneurial department, and I know she took you under her wing, and you went through that. What did you call it again? The entrepreneur. You have the entrepreneurship program, and then the
Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and yeah, Yvonne English is the director of that. Yeah.
Okay. And you went through that, and I was surprised to learn that you started working on a business, or they had you going like full bore right away your freshman year, right out of the gates, right?
Yeah, I joke that I stopped Huggable Happiness in between high school and college, and I took a semester off to run another company called Wool Enthusiasts, where I basically did technical editing for fashion companies,
Huh.
which is a very different thing than the nonprofit.
Yeah.
And it did really well. I grew my client base, and I was working with some of the top designers in the world.
Hmm.
And I just realized that I did not have the bandwidth to be a full-time student and run a company.
Yeah.
And so I ended up basically selling my client list with that company.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the next 4 years to learn what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and I'm not going to run anything else. And that
Hmm.
was kind of the decision that I made. It was Yvonne helped me kind of with that of going navigating life and mental health and being a student.
Hmm. Yep.
But
Yep.
then I took her class the next semester called Lean Launchpad, where we it's a hands-on class. You find a problem in the community and you solve it, and you basically learn the lean
Hmm.
approach to startups, and learning how to run a startup that way. And so basically, by the end of the class, you have a company that you could start. And so me
Wow.
and my team,
Hmm.
I kind of got thrown onto this team. It was like kind of the draw. We were the last pick, so we all got
Hmm.
put together.
Nice.
And one of our teammates had a grandfather with dementia.
Hmm.
Um, and so I really, with
Hmm.
that, we ran with it, and
Hmm.
it's nowhere near what Recents is right now.
Hmm.
But I went to Yvonne at the end of the class, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start this. And we're going to start this, me and my co-founder. And
Wow.
she was like, okay, you're probably some of the youngest students that are going to go through this program, but she gracefully let us in.
Wow.
And we went through every program imaginable that they had. And
Wow.
sometimes I think I stress her out a little bit. It helped.
There might be truth to that. It's a love stress, though. You know she
Yeah.
loves you.
Yeah.
That's great. Man, that's amazing. So definitely something that folks need to consider if you're looking to send your kids to a college that values entrepreneurship and business. Man, Grove City College is incredible. That's awesome. Okay, so tell us about ReSense.
Mhm.
Man, it is so inspiring, and I'm excited for them to hear our listeners to hear about the business and how you came about it, got it started, and in some ways also kind of had to pivot a little bit along the way. You experimented, you learned, you failed, you grew, you experimented, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that process and about ReSense.
Yeah. So kind of what I just hinted at, we started at freshman year,
Hmm.
and it was very much of a school project. And then after the basically sophomore year, we took it full time, and we were like, okay, we're going to run with this. And in the beginning, what Recents was creating toolkits for activity directors and for care partners
Mm.
and the care team to engage with their loved ones in a way that was safe, because this was height of COVID. And
Oh
so
yeah,
just
right.
a bit of the context in nursing homes and care communities. Group activities weren't happening anymore. Individuals were basically locked in their room. And I always say, imagine not remembering or understanding the state of the world, and then being locked in your room and told you can't go out or see your friends.
Oh yeah.
And so
Oh.
that was the problem. And so we were like, okay, how do we fix this? And
Hmm.
so we created what we called the memory box, and then renamed it to the Connect and Comfort Kit, which was a activity toolkit with 10 different activities in there that they can do by themselves or with their loved ones. And we worked with over 100 different experts, psychiatrists, psychologists, to find the science behind it. And we chose our products to increase exercising the senses, so the five
Hmm.
senses. And it was a new form of therapy that they were trying out, and we were like, we'll be one of the first companies that does it. And when we did it, we did our beta testing, that type of stuff, and we actually did see improvement in brain health
Hmm.
with the toolkit. And so that was kind of the encouragement to keep going.
Hmm.
Um, once the kit actually started taking off, then COVID ended, and so did the need for our kits.
Yep.
And so that was the first resurrection of the company because we were like, okay, well, we got to restart from the beginning. Um, and that's kind of how we came to where we are today, where we would be going and doing what we call activity sessions. So we would host bingo nights at these care communities. They loved seeing a bunch of young kids come in and just hang out with them a lot.
Yeah.
And I just remember there was one gentleman that we went multiple times to this care community. He had nothing to do with me. He did not want to talk to me, didn't want to. I was like, you know what, dude, live your life. I'm very okay with that. But I kept asking him, I was like, what is one thing I can get you though? Like, if you don't want to participate, you can still hang out with us. And he kept asking for a newspaper. And it seems like a small idea, but I like searched up and down that whole nursing home, and we could not find a newspaper for this man. And it was something that I started to really investigate because it came up multiple times, the need for a newspaper. And what we found out is in our local area, they wouldn't deliver papers or free papers to nursing homes because they weren't considered permanent residents. And so that was something that I was like, okay, that's wrong. How can we solve this? So we took all of the benefits of the Connect and Comfort Kit, made it into a newspaper, and now it's our best-selling product is the ReSense Register, which is a completely dementia-friendly newspaper. It's printed on broadsheet. I wish I had one of it here. But it's printed on broadsheet like an actual newspaper. You can get the ink on your hands. It smells like a newspaper. But everything inside of it is timeless and positive news. So we didn't want no one wants to read the news right now, let alone people that are confused. And so we wanted to create something that is based off of reminiscent therapy and that idea of remembering old memories of the past and how can we spark those memories. And so we write content and articles that will spark the memories and then encourage conversations with loved ones. And I think that's kind of our biggest theme that has been through our whole company is how can we increase conversation with these grandchildren, the parents, because it's a hard time. It's confusing for everyone involved. And if we can create a tool that will bring love into it, just in one way or another, I wanted to do that. And so that is our main product. And then recently we partnered with two other companies called Nana's Books and Mirador Magazine to create mindful libraries. And Nana Books has 40 different types of books, similar to what ReSense is doing, where we replicated media again, so that it's something that they can read, enjoy, and it's designed for seniors. And then the magazine is the same way. And so now we have a library full of dementia-friendly reading activities that, again, build and bridge that gap between communication with loved ones.
Hey guys, are you ready to start buying Bitcoin? But maybe you're hesitant because of the unique challenges in the areas of exchanges and custody and tax planning. That is where my good friend and brother in Christ, Josh Bryant, and his company, Freedom Trust, comes in. Freedom Trust brings years of experience to address these issues in collaboration with trusted industry custodians and service providers. Freedom Trust is a registered investment advisor, and Josh specializes as an advisor for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. He works with individuals, businesses, and as a partner to other registered investment advisors who need expertise in the custody of Bitcoin and digital assets. Josh can guide you through the complexities of cryptocurrency investments, providing personalized strategies to manage and protect your assets effectively. Find out more and contact my good buddy Josh Bryant today at freedomtrust.com. And let's start embracing Bitcoin, the only monetary protocol that abides by God's mandate for just weights and measures. Truth at Work executive peer advisory groups are a life and business changing experience. Trust me, I've experienced it myself. It made such an impact on me that I stepped out to become a chapter president myself. At Truth at Work, we're dedicated to helping Christian business leaders who feel isolated and overwhelmed. Our community of like-minded peers are here to help leaders like you live out your faith in the marketplace and build your business on biblical principles. Christian business leaders are transformed through these peer advisory groups that apply biblical truth for living out our faith in all areas of life. If you'd like to learn more about Truth at Work, email me, Mike Hatch, at mhatch@truthatwork.org, or you can email my counterpart, Dave Hartman, at dhartman@truthatwork.org. Wow, that is so cool. So what I love about it is you bringing up the significance of feedback and listening to your customer, as you were sharing earlier. When you started with the boxes, what did you call them again? They
were the memory box, and then we
box.
renamed it to Connect and Comfort Kit. Yeah.
Connect and Comfort Kit, right? So you moved from that and kind of, how do I say this, repurposed some of the ideas within the box, if you will, within the form of a newspaper, in order to meet the ever-changing needs of these folks. You started in the pandemic, like you said, so there's a very specific use case there with folks who were kind of trapped, shut in, and having a hard time, especially being separated from family members, and then you pivoted to this new idea with the newspaper. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that because that's innovation. That's, it's so funny. Sometimes people think innovation is this, I don't know, this magical thing that, I don't know, really sophisticated, approach to business. And, it's about as sophisticated as just listening well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Yvonne would always say it's ideate. It's so anytime, even if you have a good product, you can always listen more. And Absolutely. There's always someone else that you can get some feedback from, and I think that's what we ran. And I mean, Grove teaches it to do hundreds and hundreds of interviews. But it's fascinating that one interview could really just change the entire company. And that's what happened with us. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's just finding the right people to talk to. Yeah. And giving, I like to say it's giving people a voice sometimes, when, especially caregivers that are completely lost and are overwhelmed, and being able to talk to someone that really, like for us, we'll start this if you give us an idea. And it's just giving them that encouragement to do it.
So your customers are the caregivers as well as the folks with dementia.
Yeah, we have a duality. People that purchase are the care partners. And they end up using it, but our users are the individuals living with dementia. But a lot of the times it becomes a partnership of it, a lot of ways, because sometimes they might not be able to read, or if they do read, they still need a little bit of aid. And so that's the idea of why we wanted to create something that's for both of them. It alleviates stress and time for these care partners for having to figure out something to do 24 hours a day with their loved one. We can give them something that is a 1 hour respite, that they know that they don't have to think about what they're going to do next. They can just enjoy the newspaper. And then the individual living with dementia, like I tell this story all the time. We go into nursing homes still every day, or like every week, that type of thing, going in and seeing, okay, how's the product being used, talking to people. And there's one individual that I got told that she was nonverbal. And I brought the newspaper over to her, and she started telling me all about Pittsburgh and how she used to live near the glass, because we wrote an article on glass bottles and how they used to deliver milk and pickles and that type of stuff. And I got to learn her life story that way. Wow. And so it is a way for them to just spark memory and give dignity. I think that's the whole idea, is bringing back dignity for these individuals that a lot of times have none.
Yeah. Can you share the story of, I don't know if you can remember or not, and I'm vaguely remembering, the story of the guy who, I think you did a story in the newspaper about like World War II maybe or something, and it brought some things up for him that then caused him to share with his family. And do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember what you shared with me?
We have a lot of those stories.
Oh, man.
I think the one that we learned was the one that they didn't know that they were farmers.
Yes, that one. Can you share that story? That is so cool.
Yeah. So, again, customer feedback is huge for me. So I'm always emailing people saying, okay, like, I hate to bother you, but how's the newspaper being used? And one lady responded, and she was like, honestly, not well. My loved one just keeps tearing it up. and ripping it up. And I was like, fascinating. Okay. And so I started talking. I went back to some of my experts and everything that I talked with. And I was like, why would they be doing that? I was thinking on like a mental health side of things. Like, why
Yeah.
is it tangible? Is it a sensory thing? And then we started talking, and one of the experts was like, actually, they used to like tear up newspapers when milking cows. Like that might be a thing for him. I mean, it's just muscle memory again,
Yeah.
because that idea of when you're in the later stages of dementia, you still have muscle memory,
Yeah.
and you remember like the early memories, um, long-term memories. And so I went back to them, and they found out something completely new about their loved one, that when he was a kid, used to like work in a dairy farm and milk cows and
And tear up
does things.
newspapers for.
Yeah, but they still buy it, and they still tell me every day that he just rips it up, but it gives him something to do. So
That's amazing. See,
yeah,
that's you just never know. See, that's the coolest thing. When you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be curious. You got to be really excited to learn new things. And information is surprise. You know what I mean? When you learn new things and are surprised, man, that's the joy of it, right? And then you get to either figure out new ways to serve people and love people, like you've just described, or yeah, new ways to innovate the product that you have that you're looking to create and help others with. Man, that is so cool. Man, I love that, Luke. I love that.
thank you.
And so one other thing that I want to talk about with regards to the business, I want to mention this because I think this is, we are a Pittsburgh podcast. So this is very interesting to me. Talk about learning. You have had a kind of a hard time breaking into the Pittsburgh market, from what I understand. So can you explain a little bit about what that challenge has been like for you? Because my hope is, of course, that maybe through this podcast, because I'm connected with all sorts of people within the senior care industry, I hope they hear this and people just come in droves from Allegheny County.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I tell people we're a national newspaper, international. We've been in multiple countries. And we serve right now, we've been in over 600 communities since 2024. So it's a lot of different people are using it, and we send it to around 200 every month, every 2 weeks, essentially, that continually subscribe. But we have, I think, one in Pennsylvania, and they're in near the Philly area. And so it's just fascinating to me that it's a national newspaper, but not in Pennsylvania. And it's not for lack of trying. It's funny. I go into, again, we do these visits and we do these activity sessions, but for some reason it's just not clicking. Like they'll accept free stuff, obviously, but then and when it's like, oh, let's sign up on a subscription, I don't hear from them again.
Yeah.
But I think the nice thing is we do, and this might be because I do this, is I do give away a lot of newspapers sometimes because there might be a batch that was bad, but I don't want to just throw out all of the papers, so I'll donate them to one of the care communities down the road or something like that.
Yeah.
And so in a way that was probably losing some business there, but yeah, no, it's fascinating. If you live in Pennsylvania and are specifically near Pittsburgh, I'd love to talk to you. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we don't, for some reason, this is just like the one hole on the map that we don't have. So,
It's so funny, yeah, because I've talked about this with other guests on the show, just how tribal Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania can be, and it can be hard to break in, especially if you're from the outside and you're not originally from Pittsburgh. It takes a lot of time and effort and consistency, and diligence to build those relationships here locally to break into the market. So we're gonna get you there, Luke. We're gonna help here figure that out. So. So then talk a little bit about, Luke, if you wouldn't mind, what are some of the lessons that you feel that God has been teaching you, especially recently maybe in the business or businesses, because you've got multiple businesses actually.
yeah. I think for me, it's like trust and learn. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've been, especially recently. Whereas like we took investors and to run this company full time, and it's not a school project anymore. I actually have responsibilities and I have people to pay back.
Yeah.
And sometimes like it's that idea again of I'm not here to make $1 million. It'd be great if I could, but my goal is impact, and I think that's like I don't know if you've heard of the company called Praxis, but they
Yeah.
they
Yep.
they they like to say it's love and organizational action, and it's the idea of creative restoration through sacrifice. That's redemptive
Yeah.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And for me, that's my biggest thing is, okay, how can I serve these people and uh, prioritize them in a
Yeah.
way that brings back dignity, that blesses them, and does so in a way that we can still make money, but we're a company. So we're not a nonprofit, we're still a for-profit company. And I think right now that's the biggest thing is learning to be able to do some sacrifice and maybe not charge a ton of money for a product that we could charge a lot of money for, but it's just a way to bless these people and provide something that's more sustainable for them. And that's more people we can reach and more people we can impact. But what that means is that I am crunching numbers and I am having to go through our P&Ls and go, okay, next month we got to trust that one deal will come through,
Mm.
that type of thing, or this deal will help us go to the next stage of the company. And I think that's really just been learning that way. And just, I think God really teaches me patience a lot of the times. I am not a like naturally patient person. And I again, it's like you watch on TikTok, you see these people making $1 million just by filming videos and stuff like that, where I'm hustling newspapers over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's been really fruitful and just being able to wait because I met these two other companies. We started
Mm.
this partnership together. We're seeing benefits grow through that. I was able to bring on my first employee. I'm
Mm.
starting to see things come to fruition. It's been 4.5 years, but finally things are picking up, and I think that's the idea that with me it's like patience, trust, and just believe that God has a way for teaching me things, and a lot of the times it's teaching me through hard decisions or hard challenges. But I always do learn out from them. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the biggest thing for me is just wait.
Hey guys, are you ready to start buying Bitcoin? But maybe you're hesitant because of the unique challenges in the areas of exchanges and custody and tax planning. That is where my good friend and brother in Christ, Josh Bryant, and his company, Freedom Trust, comes in. Freedom Trust brings years of experience to address these issues in collaboration with trusted industry custodians and service providers. Freedom Trust is a registered investment advisor, and Josh specializes as an advisor for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. He works with individuals, businesses, and as a partner to other registered investment advisors who need expertise in the custody of Bitcoin and digital assets. Josh can guide you through the complexities of cryptocurrency investments, providing personalized strategies to manage and protect your assets effectively. Find out more and contact my good buddy Josh Bryant today at freedomtrust.com. And let's start embracing Bitcoin, the only monetary protocol that abides by God's mandate for just weights and measures. Jeff Doherty with Allstate Insurance has the distinction of being the very first sponsor of the Redemptive Economics podcast, and I couldn't be happier to promote his services. I've known Jeff for many years now, both as his pastor and friend, and man, I can say with confidence that he is a man of strong faith who aligns well with the Redemptive Economics values. So reach out to Jeff. He can offer you options for a wide variety of coverage and services. He's committed to helping Pittsburgh residents assess their immediate and long-term needs and choose options that will help you achieve your goals. When you want to explore options for protecting your home, personal property, or financial future, Jeff Doherty is your guy. You'll find Jeff's contact information in the show notes. Hey, go grab a cup of coffee with him, get to know him, even if it's just to review your current coverage in case you need to make adjustments. And I promise you're going to love Jeff every bit as much as I do. Yeah, and it's so funny. I always think, whenever people say God's teaching me to wait, I think of this, the Hebrew word for wait, especially in Psalm, has to do with, it's not a passive sitting around twiddling your thumb. It actually has this connotation of like writhing in pain, like really struggling. It's not passive; it's very active, waiting actually. So that's awesome. I thank you for sharing that, because one of the themes that I've seen come out over and over again with these different interviews is, in fact, I just had Andrew Burgo on, Andrew Burgo, Andrew Reichert, who's president of Burgo Realty, and we were talking about a little bit about the fact that people have this perception that entrepreneurship and being a business owner is a sexy thing that gives you all sorts of free time and travel and these luxuries and all this kind of stuff. And man, that's not accurate. Entrepreneurship can be very hard, and when you step into owning a business and owning that vision, and bringing people on, and then you have employees, you're taking on burdens. Is what it is, and we're called, as you just described. I love how Praxis says this. It is how did it go again? Creation through.
Creative restoration through sacrifice. Yeah.
Creative restoration through sacrifice. That's exactly right. That's reflecting the image of Christ. He calls us to follow after him, to be self-sacrificial, to carry our cross. And there's no greater way that we do that, I think, than by accepting responsibility for something bigger than ourselves and our own agenda, as well as in some ways accepting responsibility for others who come into our sphere. And I think people miss that. I think people miss that when you decide to enter into and embark on that entrepreneurial journey, it's going to be hard. It's going to be real hard. But there's purpose in it. There's redemptive influence that happens through that sacrifice, right? Yeah. And tell me again, you've got ReSense, and what's the other business or businesses? I forget.
Right now it's ReSense, and then another one. I basically resurrected Wool Enthusiast. I do consulting with that, and so it's a way to supplement income here and there. But and I think the nice thing is it's working with two different audiences, but it's still that idea of redemptive. I try to find it redemptive work, because a lot of times with both these industries, you're working with highly exploited people. And being able to work with companies and kind of share a different light of entrepreneurship and what it could look like, or the type of business people can be. That's kind of, so those are the two businesses right now that I've been running.
That's great. Okay. All right. And obviously the ReSense is your main thing, and the other one being consulting. That's the other part too, is it's not easy to run multiple businesses. It is. You really gotta sometimes nail down that one nail.
Especially with like ReSense and Mindful Libraries taking off right now. They're the same in a way. It's a collaborative. But it's now like 3 times the amount of work that's being done. But
Totally. Let me ask you this: if there are ways that people, because I imagine there might be people out there who would be interested in helping out with this, maybe being a writer or helping to work on the paper. Are there volunteer opportunities?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We love hearing different voices,
Okay.
and I think that's lots of different voices, lots of different backgrounds and life experiences. And so even if that's writing a column in the newspaper or writing one of the articles, 200 words. Like, you can share a lot or a little, as much as you want. And the other thing is we just like to work with anyone that's interested in this space, because it's that idea of like strengthening relationships with care partners or people that are past care partners. And there's a lot of opportunities to work together, and whether it's sharing or advocating, there's a lot of advocacy work that goes on in this industry, and bringing our products to light during that is a helpful thing.
Yeah, because you take old stories. I remember you telling me this. You take old stories from early 20th century, basically, folks that some of these folks would remember or have some recollection of, basically, and you kind of rewrite them. Is that right? Or you kind of turn them into something positive? And
we will take old events, like historical events, and we will revisit them in a different light. So we'll tell the story, but it'll probably be more in a present tense, or written in a more positive light, and there's no dates involved. Again, so someone's reading this and be like, I think it's 1956 right now, so why is it 2024 on here? Like, so that
Hmm.
idea decreases confusion.
Yeah.
And so, but it's
Huh.
still events that they would know, and it's people that they would know. So every article or every newspaper has a famous person, and then usually if they're a movie star, we include something about the movie that they were in or something like that. So.
Oh, that is so cool. I just, man, imagine the conversations that can be started up in a situation like that. I'm just imagining, folks with their kids and their grandkids and maybe even great grandkids. And
Mhm.
oh, what a rich tool. Okay. So, what advice would you give other Christian entrepreneurs, especially those who might be just getting started?
Mhm.
Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Been thinking about this one. I think my hardest or my the best advice that I would give is to fail and fail hard. And I think you'll hear that a lot. Everyone
It's
will,
great.
a lot of people will say that.
Yeah.
But it truly is like one of the best. Like you learn so much through it.
Hmm.
But the idea is not to fail and stop. It's to okay, resurrect this. Let's go and redo this and see where we went wrong this time and fix it the next time.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that also is mentorship. And
Mm.
so it's being able
Hmm.
to take a mentor who has done it before and done it well, and really learn from them. So like for me, Yvonne is my like life mentor. I call her my sensei or that type of thing. So
Yeah.
she really has done this and she knows what she's talking about. And so when there's a situation that comes up, I can go and ask her, or if it she always says ask for forgiveness, not permission sometimes. So if
Right.
I did do something and I had to learn the hard lesson, she'll help me walk through learning that, and restarting or doing it again. And I think that's also biblical, is taking a mentorship and learning
Oh
from
yeah.
the
Yeah.
people that are wiser than you. And so I think that's kind of the my two advice. And I
Hmm.
think when you're just starting a company, sometimes it's hard to ask for help, or you don't want to ask for help. You want to do it on your own. But when you have a team of people behind you and you know that you're supported, it makes it a lot easier.
Man, that's huge. Yeah. Whew. I know so many entrepreneurs who are isolated and alone and trying to be on that mission by themselves. And in some ways, it feels easier because you're the expert and you have the clearest vision and you're the one that's driven, and so you'll work to get things done and you'll work as hard as it takes, right? As
Mhm.
long as it takes. Um, and bringing other people into it can be draining on energy and time, right? Because you're having
Yes.
to bring them up to speed, communicate well. It adds another layer of complexity to it. But man, like you just said, it is an encouragement,
Mhm.
and it gives you sustainable energy for
Mhm.
the long term. So I love that. Appreciate that. And then of course, fail. Yes, fail. Yeah, I love that too. I think we get too caught up, especially unfortunately as Christians. And Ron Rossetti, who is the founder of Peace, Love, and Little Donuts,
Mhm.
said this in our interview. He talked about we talked about the brutal reality of entrepreneurship, and he just said, "Look, it's got to be profitable. Like, forget about your calling, forget about like how good you feel about what you're doing, and like if it's not profitable, like then you're gonna not last, basically."
Mhm.
And he just brought a lot of reality to to the situation. But I think often as Christians, we get so attached to that vision, to that dream, to what we think is God calling us to do something. And He may be, but you're just starting. Like, and that's where Darren Grove, who I also had on, said, you're doing it right if you don't end up where you think you were going to end up when you started. Basically, like
Wow.
that's a
Yeah.
long journey, right? So that's awesome. Thank you, Luke, for that. And so, how can folks get in touch with you? How can they reach out to you if someone wants to play a role in the newspaper? Maybe they want to take you out for coffee and learn more about you and what you're doing. Yeah, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, all of my contact information is on our website,
Okay.
which is resensebox.com, or mindfullibraries.com. My phone number is the phone number that's listed.
Okay. Literally
So,
your cell phone number.
yeah, it's a human being behind this.
Yeah.
Not someone it's not AI or anyone like that. So, if you want to reach out, that's the best way to do it. And I would love to hear from anyone that is interested or just wants to learn more. I think this is a space that there's advocacy, but everyone is touched by dementia in one way or another. It doesn't take too long to think about who you know. And so being able to share help for you, if it's a friend that's going through it, you can at least provide some respite or guidance and support. Thank you so much for having me on this. And just being able to share my story. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Luke. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today, brother. Let's get to work!